views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
This is the latest disclosure, a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Wait a minute, something's happening. Some shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Wow, I actually played the wrong intro. I don't know if anyone caught that. That was last night's intro, and that really threw me for a loop. Now, everybody that's listening now are going, oh, what? We're listening to what? Deeper Cuts? Well, I thought this is the criminal code. So in interest of making things, I don't know, right? I'm going to go ahead and play, I don't know, the correct intro, if no one's opposed to doing that, because, quite honestly, this show kicks butt. Here we go. Let's play the right thing, shall we?
I'd like an answer to the question, Judge.
You can't handle the truth!
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code, with your hosts, Joel Sturgis, Eric Olsen, and Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And like the lady said, welcome to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. After you played the correct intro, thank you, broadcast technology that likes to throw a fast one at me once in a while. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And tonight we have a huge show tonight. And I know I said it every week, but I really, really always mean it. And this one is no exception. We're talking about Ted Kaczynski tonight, guys. Better known as the Unabomber. And the reason why we're talking good old Ted, or about Ted tonight, is because they recently did a Discovery Channel show, Manhunt, the Unabomber. And we're going to be talking with, I guess, maybe you can fill us in better than anyone else can, Mr. Eric. Who are we speaking to tonight at the top of next hour?
We are talking to the man in charge. He's the director, he's the exec producer, and he is the showrunner of Discovery's Manhunt Unabomber, and his name is Greg Yaitanes, and he is a very, very famous, well-known, and veteran TV director / showrunner, an Emmy winner, and I just found out this moments ago as I was looking him up. He is one of the original investors in Twitter, and he has over 300,000 Twitter followers.
No way! Wow.
What?
Wait a minute. He has 300,000 Twitter followers, but you have 400,000 Twitter followers.
True. I have 400.
Who's more Twittery than that? Just saying, you might be a bigger deal there, Eric. After Hours AM, America's Most Haunted might be a bigger deal on Twitter than even him. No, I'm just kidding, of course. That is cool news. And that he was part of the pioneering of the Twitter, which is now we know is really everywhere. You can't go anywhere without getting hit with a tweet.
That's right. You can't swing a dead tweet without hitting Twitter.
No, you cannot. Hey, big programming news, though. Get away from the dead tweets because, we want to be nice here and not talk about dead tweets. We are going to be over there in October 12th, 13th, the 14th, Paracon Monoman, which is here in Minnesota, of course. But not only that, we will be doing the remote, not just a remote. We will be doing the remote for the event. That means we're going to be speaking with Jason Hawes. We're going to be speaking with Zach Baggins and the GAC crew. We're going to be speaking even with Tyrese from The Walking Dead. Remember him, right?
Wow, very cool.
You remember him, don't you, Eric? We cried. We cried when the actor that played Tyrese died.
No,
yes,
we're talking
I
about not even
well.
watch The Walking Dead.
You never watched The Walking Dead?
I am afraid to even say that on the air. I'm afraid I'm going to get lynched for saying such. I don't. I do
wait
not
a second. You've never seen The Walking Dead?
No, no.
We reference that show constantly on this show. Always. There's a Walking Dead reference somewhere. And this is the first time in almost a year that's almost as shocking as, a while back, as we know, Eric loves a certain show that's out there. And what show is that, Eric?
Well, there's a few, but Supernatural.
Supernatural. And you have been fawning for 2.5 years over Supernatural. One day, recently, I said, yeah, I've never seen an episode. I thought Eric was going to jump through the microphone and choke me to death. You've never seen a Supernatural after all these years? You could have said that. So, yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from. I do.
Just some shows. I don't latch on to certain shows. I don't know what it is. And everybody watches The Walking Dead. Everybody. And I can't get into it. I'm sorry.
Well, not a lot of people. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, so it's acquired taste, I guess. But man, I happen to love the way it tastes.
Hey, most people do. You are in the vast majority.
All right. Well, here's the question, though, Clarissa. Is it that you have watched it and you rejected it? You put out your hand, you grabbed your nose between your thumb and forefinger and said, ew? Or have you just never watched it?
I pretty much rejected it, to be honest.
What?
I did. So you have seen it?
Yes. I have seen part of an episode, and I just couldn't do it.
What was it about the show that made you so... I hate it. I never want to see it again.
I'm afraid to even say so. I'm afraid to say something. I thought, I kind of thought the dialogue was a little cheesy, to be honest.
What? Cheesy?
Yeah.
Dialogue?
What? There's dialogue?
What are you talking about?
What are you...
It's a TV show.
I just don't even know.
Zombies. There's no dialogue.
There was some dialogue in the episode that I watched, and I couldn't do it. And you know what? I have very fond memories of Jeffrey Dean Morgan in other roles, so I'm just going to leave it.
That's funny.
I just don't know where to go now with this. I just don't know how to feel about all this. But anyhow,
when was that, by the way? What do you know approximately what season that was?
It was one of the. I want to say it was one of the earlier seasons, but yeah, I don't really remember now. It was a long time ago, and from what I hear from the people that watch it, it hasn't exactly been getting better. So, I don't.
Yeah. Anyhow, getting back to Paracon 2017 before we go into headlines. just to give people a quick snippet of who will be there. Chad Coleman, of course, AMC's The Walking Dead. He did play Tyrese. Zach Baggins, Grant Wilson of Ghost Hunters, as well as Jason Hawes. Josh Gates will be there as well. And us, of course, but Travis Walton will be there. And that'll be cool because Fire in the Sky. Remember that, Eric? We've talked with him before.
We just watched that here at home.
Yeah, Lauren Coleman.
Within the last couple weeks.
Exactly.
Few weeks.
Lauren Coleman will be there. Steve Gonzalez will be there. Dave Tangle will be there. Big Egg just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we keep going. The names just keep getting added to Paracon 2017 and will be there, of course. That, again, is this October, and that will be the 12th, 13th, and 14th, 2017. Be there or be square. So, there. That's done.
Very impressive. And you keep coming up with new enticements for me to actually make the journey. So
yeah. And
I don't know. If you add maybe one more.
Like
a sandwich or something, that might tip me over the edge.
Hey, you know what? Not only will I give you a sandwich, but I will pick you up at the airport. How does that sound?
Wow.
Not only would I give you a PB&J, because I'm a nice guy like that, but I will pick you up at the airport. I will not make you hitchhike. I promise.
That is something, I must say. I might drive.
You might drive. That's 1,000 miles to get to see your favorite Walking Dead character. I hear you. Okay, well, we got to get into what people came for, and of course...
Well, I'm not sure he's my favorite.
Well, he's right up there, though. I remember you saying, I love the Tyrese, man. No, when he died, you were actually not too happy with that.
I was up in arms.
You were a little bit. Well, not as up in arms as when Glenn died, when he allegedly died that first time. No. That was a game changer right there. I remember that night vividly. And then, of course, when the gruesome task at hand, when Glenn actually did die.
It was all, every time it was bad.
Yeah, every time. Every time. But,
every death of Glenn.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to meet Josh Gates while we're there. And again, Eric, we'll be interviewing all these people. So it's not like we're only going to say, hey, how you doing in the hallway? We're actually going to sit down with them and talk with them.
It's all really pretty cool, I have to admit.
Yeah.
That is pretty close to, if not the most impressive, at least TV-oriented paranormal lineup I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really, really up there. And, of course, they reached out to us for us to cover it. When I contacted them initially, it was basically to get a vendor's table there, as to do a remote of our own. Just basically, hey, here we are at Paracon. Let's cover it for our own purposes. But they went one step further and offered to partner with us. And so
that is super cool.
That is super cool. And so look for more information, I'm sure, at the America's Most Haunted website, because the press release is out, and I did ship all that stuff to Mr. Olsen, and he will be getting that kind of stuff up there on the website, I'm sure, in the following days or weeks.
Hours.
Hours, gosh darn it. But yeah, we'll be a part of Paracon. And we are looking forward to seeing all of you guys there. And plus meeting the celebs, but more importantly, meeting our fans. That's going to be awesome. Meeting our fans, man.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Exactly. So anyhow, getting back to what we all are here for, it's time for True Crime Headlines, brought to you by thecriminalcode.com. I've been talking for weeks about thecriminalcode.com. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. And every time there's a new write-up out there, I learn a ton from Dr. Cole. And I know everyone else as well. Huh?
Excuse me, Joel. You know what it's a lot like?
Sure. What?
The Walking Dead.
It is like The Walking Dead. It just keeps getting better and better as we go. But
I mean, I do walk around with a bat with barbed wire wrapped around it, but that's the only thing.
So you do know about Lucille.
Oh,
really?
Never will she plead ignorance again.
Maybe she's a closet watcher. She's just afraid because all of her highfalutin doctor friends look down their nose at her.
Maybe she watches it with the sound turned down so she doesn't have to hear the dialogue.
Exactly. And I can see that. Maybe it's a little lowbrow for your kind of people. But for the rest of us, I know you like that how I threw that in there, your kind of people. But no, we love it. But yes, getting back to
it's far too lowbrow for Wisconsinites.
Oh gosh, yeah, it doesn't involve cheese or brats, so that's a game changer for them. Anyhow, getting back to what I was saying, go to thecriminalcode.com. Now that we have thoroughly offended our good doctor, make sure you go there twice. That way the clicks matter, and she doesn't keep hating on me. But thecriminalcode.com, and in fact, she has done a write-up on the Unabomber. So you're going to want to read that. That corresponds to the show, stuff like that. So definitely go on over there, thecriminalcode.com. And if you go there, she will sign a glossy for you and send it to you.
What? I don't even have glossies. What?
I heard you have many action photos of you in front of the TV watching The Walking Dead.
I have heard that as well. Did you guys happen to, really, really quick, and we'll probably mention this tomorrow night, we'll go more in depth, but did you guys hear the news yet about H.H. Holmes and Jeff Mudgett?
Yeah. No.
The DNA is Holmes in the cover.
Oh, yes, I did hear that. Yeah.
Yep. We posted that, of course, on the Facebook. And so we'll get into the full story tomorrow, but that is definitely HH in the casket. So
now what is this nonsense about? What evidence is there? I tried to watch it. Let's not get into that. My wife refuses to watch that series.
Why?
Why? It's too gory. Too gory.
Oh. Well, but I bet she watches The Walking Dead.
Yeah, but see, that's not real.
What? Oh, my
goodness. Wait a second. She's not opposed to having people...
She doesn't want to see real photos.
You have to understand,
of eviscerated murder victims.
Now,
real photos.
Well, before I want to qualify
not the recreation. I don't care about that.
I want to say I respect and I like Dawn immensely. But, come on.
Yes.
The Walking Dead is gory as all hell.
But it's not real. But pushing all that aside, I put out a tweet actually kind of passing along Jeff's information from the show because he's our bud and all that.
Yeah.
But I got a bunch of response saying, no, you're wrong. The show has proved that H.H. Holmes is Jack the Ripper. So
I have yet to see that.
What's that?
As far as I know, from what I've seen, and of course we haven't hit I don't think we've hit the crescendo, because I'm still catching up on the old DVR situation. But as far as I'm aware, they did not do that. There was no concrete, yes, he's Jack the Ripper, and this is why. I think there's a lot of evidence hinting that way, but not necessarily really crossing that bridge that he actually was the Ripper. But him being in the coffin now, dying when he did die. I mean, he was obviously killed. He was hung. He was hanged by the neck. That may put a damper on the theory of Jack the Ripper. Wouldn't that put a damper on that theory? Because isn't that allegedly after he basically eluded the hangman, is when he went to Europe and killed people? Isn't that what the theory was?
We need Clarissa's input on that. What's the timeline for Jack the Ripper?
It is in the middle of when H.H. Holmes was beginning to be active in Chicago.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But it's it doesn't really line up. It would be very difficult. It would be very, very difficult for him to have been Jack the Ripper, have gotten over to London, gotten back completely undetected, and be building the murder castle, and be dealing with lawsuits.
And we're not talking about a plane right away here. We're talking about a ship voyage. So it wasn't like it was like a 13-hour flight here. We're talking about weeks on a ship to get there.
Exactly. Good point. From what I've seen, I've actually been watching at least parts until I'm told to turn it off.
Till the boss comes in and says, "Oh, that's it for that one." Till the boss
says, "Nope, that's enough of that. Turn that off." The angle in the later episodes, and I've seen at least some of all the episodes. I've maybe only seen half of them, more or less, all the way through. But in the later episodes, what they're angling for, besides the whole "did he escape?" the hangman's noose, which now the answer is no, he did not.
No.
Is that they're looking for Ripper-like crimes in the U.S. That was the other big angle. Are you convinced by any of that, Clarissa? These Ripper-like crimes. Well, it was like Indiana. It was supposedly somewhat following his path when he escaped or left or went on the lam from Chicago. Did that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I did see that, but actually I think that there's more evidence that Jack the Ripper, who became dormant in London, may have come over here. I never associated that with Holmes, to be honest. And I always thought that the Ripper crimes in London, very specifically, they knew him or knew of him, and he was of that community, because some of the victims, I am positive, would not have gotten close to a stranger when those murders were happening. It does not fit. Yeah, to me, it doesn't fit.
They kind of stuck with the Johns they knew, right? Back in those days,
exactly, because they knew that these murders were happening. So the first, victim or two could have gotten close to someone they didn't know, but specifically Mary Kelly and oh gosh, I think Catherine Eddowes. Before that, were very specific that they were going out to ply the trade, but that they were only going to stick to people that they knew. And in Mary Kelly's case, she had a very protective boyfriend who made her promise she was only going to stick to Johns that she knew, and she was murdered at home. She was murdered at home. So I do not think it was somebody from outside of London, a complete foreigner that they just happened to trust. That makes no sense.
True. So we'll have to see how all unfolds and see where it goes. And because in my mind, HH being in the tomb, that's a big hurdle to cross now. Because now, had it not been HH in the tomb, and we could have said, oh, maybe he did elude. Obviously, he did elude his captors, and he did live and move on and do things. No, it's him in the casket. So that kind of, I don't know. And I don't want to throw shade on Jeff because he's our bud. I mean, he's our friend.
Right.
But there's also... things just may not fit so neatly now that information's out there.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean, I'm always open.
Yeah,
I'm always open
I
to
am
hearing
too.
New.
I am as well. Okay, now we have to go on over to headline time. Man, why is Cleveland such a hard city? What is up with Cleveland?
I don't know what happened.
Oh my God.
What happened?
Holy cow, you are living in a hotbed of activity.
You are, man.
What's going on?
So a very, very innocuous place, Taco Bell.
Oh, run for the border,
yeah. Run for the border at like 2:45 in the morning, right? So late night run to Taco Bell with two armed robbers. So two guys with guns go to Taco Bell to rob them at 2:45 in the morning. And 3 out of the 6 Taco Bell employees that were on staff pull guns and shoot them.
Huh.
Wow. Where was this?
In Cleveland.
Well, I know, but I mean...
West 117th and Franklin.
So
that's the west side, isn't it?
It would be the west side. Now, you're telling me that these people went in to rob the Taco Bell.
Yes,
and the employee... Well... And the employees are packing heat their own? Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
3 out of the 6.
What guys? Wow. Man.
I gotta tell you,
and they make tacos. They're fast on the draw.
Yeah.
I kind of skim over the murders and the true crime in Cleveland because there's a lot of it. And usually it's pretty boring and or depressing, but that one is not. I like.
Wow, that. So a firefight ensued, or did they just start shooting at the would-be criminals, the would-be robbers?
They just started shooting at the would-be criminals, and they fatally wounded one of them.
Wow, bad day to go to Taco Bell and want to hold it
in
up.
your face.
Yeah,
bro.
wow, man.
Very bad day to go. Well, actually, the other customers were not injured.
Want your burrito with a side of hot lead? Pow!
This case is like they're going to be pinning this up. Every single one, every advocate for concealed carry,
exactly.
Right? Be pinning this case up. The criminals were thwarted, no civilians were injured, and the dignity of Americans, great and small, man and woman, was upheld.
Eric, do you ever get
running for the border?
But you're living there, okay? Do you ever feel nervous? Well, you're not in Cleveland itself, but do you ever feel unsafe in Cleveland?
I don't go to unsafe places.
Well, that is true. I suppose you know where all the...
No.
So you don't go to Taco Bell's. You don't go to... You don't go to anywhere that...
Of course, you can't ever really know what... anything can happen anywhere. That is true. No question about it. Things happen in the weirdest places you'd never expect. But in general, if you are wise... you can generally avoid such things. I mean, all you got to do, if you go to cleveland.com and there is a true crime section, I should say there's a crime section, Metro crime, that kind of thing, very popular.
Yeah, their own section.
Yeah, Metro, and every day there are, it seems like, I mean, I'm sure it's not every day, but almost every day anyway, there are murders, or at least there's shootings, right?
Yeah.
So they're almost always in the same places.
Well, I like how they have their own section in the paper for the crime.
Right. People have right too. People love it. Dawn loves it. People, it's just, to me, it gets what I love about doing this show, and what I love about what Clarissa brings in these are interesting, weird, stupid, funny, or are in the complete opposite direction, really terribly tragic cases. There's something unique about them. The drumbeat, the litany, the daily crime, it just gets me down, man. I do scan it, and I always look to see where they took place. And it's... frankly, sadly, it's almost always in the same areas.
Well, isn't Cleveland some months back where the guy shot the guy for no good reason in cold blood that was carrying during Easter time? Wasn't that another Cleveland crime?
It was.
Okay.
There's all kinds of, including, very high national attention crimes. We had I can't believe I can't think. Who's the 12-year-old boy who was killed? He was big. The cops showed up. He had a toy gun.
Oh, that's right.
Killed him.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, that was in Cleveland.
That was
as well.
a huge case.
That really was.
There was one with the deadly pursuit where it ended up being like 40 frickin' cop cars on a chase. They had to completely rewrite their rules. The police department of Cleveland was reprimanded. They was taken over at one point by the state. I mean, we've had all kinds of stuff happen here.
Cleveland is the new Wild West, only in the East.
Cleveland, like many, many cities, is going to have areas that are pretty high crime, pretty dangerous. And if you stay away from those areas, then you're statistically going to be better off. The downtown itself, the actual downtown, has been redeveloped, rebuilt. The sports teams right now are all hot. Even the Browns won all their preseason games. So people are trying to not get too excited because they know that probably won't happen during the regular season.
Johnny Manziel. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, but he's long gone.
I know, but that's the kind of decision-making they made. Anyhow.
But anyway, the downtown is hot. It's happening. It's relatively safe. There's plenty going on. Cleveland has a lot going on. But does it have violent crime? Oh, yes. But again, it tends to be relatively, of course not only, but relatively confined to certain areas. And, you kind of got to stay away from those areas if you can, and you'll probably be okay.
But here's the deal. Eric, I thought about calling this Taco Bell, much like we did the Clown Motel recently, but after the way we were treated by the Clown Motel, I have no interest in calling these places. No, we're good.
She was not very nice.
She was not very nice. Not very nice. Okay, we got to run a break. We come back. More of your true crime headlines with Dr. Clarissa Cole and ourselves, of course. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Right after this. listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
Hi, I'm Kip Parker. And I'm Charlie Parker. And we're the Parker Brothers. Hey, Charlie, what's missing from our game catalog? I don't know, Kip. Tell me. Well, you can't talk to the dead. You sure as hell can. That's why we got this brand new game called Ouija. Ouija? Well, break that down for me. Well, it's Wii because you're having a great time. And G, it's because G, aren't you having a blast because you're having a good time with the Wii. It looks like it smelled like a Chinaman got caught in there. Don't question it. Well, Ouija, Kip, tell me about it. Well, inside the package comes a flat board with all the letters of the alphabet, numbers from 0 to 9, and a yes-no written out by itself. Well, that sounds like a lot of stuff going on. It's got a lot of stuff going on indeed, Charlie. It also comes with this planchette which hovers over the letters the dead are trying to tell you. Well, how does that work, Chip? Well, you ask the question, and then the dead move your hands in the direction of the answers. That sounds like a heck of a way to find Grandpa's slave money. Turns out it was in the attic. But the questions don't have to be as serious as slavery. You can also find out if Sally's got a crush on you. The dead like to answer all sorts of trivial questions. Feels like they'd have better things to do with their time, Kip. No, lost souls are lost forever, and they're really glad to help. Well, gee, Kip, can't you just get any sort of board with numbers and letters and talk to the dead? The dead prefer quality like anybody else. Quality you can only find at Parker & Parker.
The Ouija board, brought to you by the Parker Brothers, available in both white and colored wallworks. Separate but equal savings.
Author Steve Asher brings us Hauntings of Trilogy. Steve's first book, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary. This first installment of the trilogy tells us the tale of the Kentucky State Penitentiary and why it's so haunted. With every turn of the page will be something new and terrifying. Pick up Steve's new book, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and all better bookstores everywhere.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the Wacky Waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the Wacky Waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
You were dead! I saw you die! I was faking. I used ninja focus to slow my heart rate down. What are you doing? I'm burying you. I'm alive! I'm alive! You're waking the neighbors! No. Shut up! No! Now I'm gonna play your drum set.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And again, I do apologize for anyone tuning in. The Deepest Cut somehow got into my broadcast system, but we did remedy that. Thank you, modern technology. We are back on the road, of course, with the proper tags. Moving along now. Getting away from that and trying to explain how inept I am tonight, evidently. We got to talk about this 5-month thing. What's going on in this next news story?
This is so
This is weird. I'm trying to figure it out.
I figured that stuff like this probably does happen in Pennsylvania. This is a Pennsylvania story, and I don't think about Pennsylvania very much, but when I do, stuff like this.
It's weird.
I don't think about Pennsylvania, but when I do, it's always about weird things.
It is. So in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a woman who claimed to be the adoptive mother of a Ukrainian man who was posing as a Harrisburg high school student has been ordered to serve 5 months in prison. As it turns out, a woman named Stephanie McClure Potts pled guilty to Social Security fraud and harboring somebody in the country illegally.
Oh.
So this person named Artur Samarin, who overstayed his visa, used falsified documents to enroll as a freshman under a fake name when he was 19 years old.
A freshman in high school?
Yeah.
Wow, he must be youthful.
Shows up with his beard. I want to enroll.
And he was sentenced earlier on federal fraud charges, also for sexually assaulting a 15-year-old classmate, theft, and tampering.
Guy, sounds like a bad dude.
Bad person.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Spank.
And his name is Artur?
Artur, yeah.
Artur Samarin.
Artur Samarin.
Wow. Overstayed his visa, yep. Used falsified documents to enroll freshmen. How does Social Security fraud come into this, though?
I don't know. I don't understand how any of this works. First of all, I don't understand how a 19-year-old passes as a freshman anyway.
Yeah. When he shows up and he's got gray hair or sporting the full beard, going, yeah, I'm a freshman.
I know. What did they say? Like, well, this is just how they look in the Ukraine.
Yeah, this is how they look. They all look this old.
They mature early over there. I'll tell you what, though, when I went to junior high, and this was when everyone still had gym and everyone still had to take a shower.
Oh, the group shower.
Group shower. Oh, yeah. So here I am, this little lily white boy from South Shores, going over the hill all the way down to the harbor for L.A. Harbor for junior high for 7th grade, right? So I get there, and I mean, some of these people, it seemed to be more like quite a few of the Mexican Americans, but not just them. Some of the, Slavs, even Italians, very ethnic. Remember, it's a harbor town. This is L.A. Harbor. And the whole town of San Pedro just kind of grew up from the harbor until eventually all the land was taken up. Anyway, these guys had mustaches. They had beards, man. They were like tying their pubic hair in knots. This is at like 11, 11, 12 years old. I'm like, I'll let you know what century I hit puberty. I mean, it was so intimidating. And so anyway, there's my tale about people who look really old when they're young.
Well, you always got that guy.
But this is a reversal of it.
Yeah. You always got that guy, though, when you went to high school that had the beard.
That's true.
And
there was that one guy, you're right.
He could get beer or whatever, just because he looked old enough. And you'd make friends of him because he was your hookup, that kind of stuff. I get that part, but really? He's 19, posing as a freshman, walking in there with his full beard and his...
Yeah, like he didn't think posing as maybe a junior or senior might have been a better plan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a junior. I'm a freshman. What are you talking about? You look like you're older than I am.
And where's he from? Ukraine, you said?
Yes, the Ukraine.
I was held back.
Yes. For half a decade.
5 times.
Wow. So, 5 times. It was the 90s. So, I was held back a lot. What can I say? All right, Dr. Cole, where would you like to go next? Where do you take us next?
I feel like we should talk about this story because even though it happened in July, it's been going pretty viral this week.
Yes, it has.
It's the story about that Utah head nurse actually, at the hospital that would not take blood from an unconscious man because the cops did not have a warrant. And then they ended up pretty violently arresting her.
They beat her down. They beat her down. That's what they did. Those cops, they beat her down. They're pretty, like you said, violent is not the word for it. It was vicious.
It really, considering this wasn't somebody that was exactly resisting, I don't understand at all.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't get the rubber hoses out and billy clubs and really do her up right.
Oh, man. I mean, and just like...
Water cannon.
Yeah. Rubber bullets.
Yeah, her name was Alex Wubbles, and she, just to break it down, if anybody has been living under a rock and hasn't seen this story... Alex Wubbles is the head nurse at this hospital where a driver who was involved. Now, this is where things get. I don't know if you guys know this part. Do you know who the person was that was unconscious?
No.
Oh, this is the best part. So the cops that were trying to get the blood from this patient had been recently their department, 2 members of their department had been involved in a high-speed chase of a suspect.
Okay.
And this suspect ran head-on during this chase into a truck.
Oh.
Okay, and died instantly, the person they were chasing.
Sure.
The unconscious man was the man in the truck.
Then why did they need his blood so badly?
Oh, I have plenty of guesses.
Why?
Well, first of all, they're the ones that caused the crash by engaging in a high-speed chase. So if you can prove that the guy that got hit was impaired with alcohol or drugs, it's not your fault, right?
Exactly. That's true. That is true. That would absolve them from any kind of liability.
I mean, that's literally the only reason I can think of.
So now, why does it say Idaho Police Department thanks heroic nurse when it was them that beat her down and arrested her?
Well, it was the Utah police that beat her down and arrested her. Remember, they were in Utah. The thing, the plot thickens, people.
Okay.
The person that was driving the truck was an off-duty, part-time Idaho cop.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And
she was unknowingly protecting another cop.
So, what has happened to these? I mean, okay, number one. Can you legally draw blood as a law enforcement officer if they're not arrested or suspected of anything? Can they make a nurse, while they cannot give permission, can they obtain blood legally?
No, absolutely not. They have to have, you have to have probable cause. So let's say a person is weaving in and out of traffic. They clearly look impaired. That's probable cause. But they also have to have a warrant. So probable cause and a warrant. This person, there was no probable cause. He did nothing wrong. He was unconscious. And there was no warrant because guess what? There wouldn't be a warrant because he didn't do anything wrong.
So why is not the feds involved in this?
I'm guessing they're hoping that Utah will handle their stuff, but,
Because now it's a clear violation of the law caught on camera.
It is, and it's not just, and that's the thing, like when you watch, there are other cameras, like people haven't seen the entire picture. I just keep seeing the same clip of the arrest.
Yeah.
There's more. There's a lieutenant that is talking to her, also on body cam, while she is in the back of the cop car, trying to bully her into taking blood as she's sitting in the back of the cop car. He's saying, you know what, if it's not legal, it'll just get thrown out anyway, so why don't you just do it?
Because what you're asking me to do is illegal.
Exactly. She wouldn't budge.
And what ultimately happened now? Was she arrested and is she in the prison as we speak? Jail as we speak?
Oh, no. They took her in and basically everybody at the cop shop said, why did you arrest this person? And they let her go because they had no right to arrest her.
So why?
And the cop said, because we were mad.
Yeah.
Well,
we didn't get our way.
If I was an attorney right now, I would be on the horn to this lady. Because she has a huge case.
Well, that's the only reason people have even seen these videos. It was her attorney that got them and released
them. Okay. So she has an attorney and she's suing.
I hope so. My gosh.
She'll win.
And you know what? I never say that either. I'm not a sue-happy person. I hope she sues them to hell and back.
All right. Question for both you guys here. Do you think that law enforcement, which by and large, again, let me qualify this, are good people of the community? But do you believe that by and large, when we see situations like this, they get away with too much and they're not held accountable for their own misdeeds?
Always, yes. And there's also the code, the blue line, thin blue line. There's a code of silence, too. So, they can bully you and then other people see it and nobody says anything.
But the difference now is all this social media and the ease with which digital photos, video, and audio can be gathered. So now all of a sudden that which was not documented now is not only documented, but often disseminated. That's the difference.
You know what happened to me one time? I got pulled over by a police officer for really no good reason. I was minding my own business.
You've been pulled over before, Joel. Say it isn't so.
Oh, yes, I have been.
I was pulled under.
Yeah, exactly. I've been pulled over for good reasons, but this time it was really no good reason. Basically, what the individual did, and this is pulled me over. He ran my plates, right? Why he's running my plates when I've done nothing wrong, I did not know. I have clearly owned this vehicle I happen to be in for a good 10 years, claiming that it was a stolen vehicle. I said, wait a minute.
What?
I've owned this vehicle for years. This is my truck. I had to produce a title. And luckily, I kept a copy of the title in the vehicle. Not the title, but a photocopy from the DMV. Just happened to keep it.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Just happened to keep it.
More than you think.
Just happened to keep it in the glove box. Didn't even think twice about it. Been in there for years. And I said, oh, wait a minute. I have this. I gave it to him. Right? But I was kind of recording the whole thing, and he didn't like that. Cops will tell you cannot record them if they can. The truth of the matter is you can. You can video record them and have them state their name, their badge number, and everything right on video. It's completely in your rights to do so. So
yes, it is.
My story is I was being harassed for no good reason. So after I said, well, why are you running my plates? He had nothing on. He really, he just says, well, you look suspicious. Was his comeback.
Very professional.
I'm like, really? I've owned this same vehicle 10 years. The plate, I've never had a problem with it. I mean, it's 6 years I've had the plate on the vehicle, because every 7 years in my state you got to change your plates. 6 years I've had the plate. So I said to the cop, I don't think you really should be running people's plates, because isn't that a little bit illegal? Whoa, crap got real. Did he arrest you? No, he got mad because I was right. They just can't run your plates for fun.
They do that all the time.
But they can't.
I mean,
they cannot do that.
I technically have protected plates in this state.
They cannot.
Which, by the way, makes them really angry.
Now, I found out actually from a good friend of mine who works for the FBI, that they cannot, out of nowhere, just run your plates. They're cannot
not
do
supposed
that.
To know. They're supposed to have probable cause for sure. But I do know that it happens. And like I said, if you have a protected plate, they get very upset.
Now, what is a protected plate?
You'll see these occasionally. I don't know if they're labeled the same way in California or in other states as they are out here, but the plate will say exempt at the top of it in really small writing. And what it means is that when somebody runs your plate, a cop or otherwise, nothing will come up in the system. It's a protected plate.
Can anyone get them?
No.
Why?
They have to be issued by the governor.
Oh, well, wait a minute. If you know the governor, which I happen to know our governor,
Ooh,
Mark
you
Dayton,
might be able to get one.
Mark Dayton. I should give him a call and go, hey, Mark, what's up with protected plates and how can I get one?
No, see, okay, this is why you don't want them. And I'm going to, a very short story, but this is exactly why you don't want a protected plate. So when you break the law by speeding, because I've done that on occasion.
Oh, not you.
Oh, yeah. So when you break the law by speeding and they pull you over and they run your plate and then nothing comes up and they see it's a protected plate, that means that they know automatically that you are a government official or employee of some sort.
And how do they treat you once they realize that you are someone
It's like getting
special?
pulled over by an older brother and your dad all at the same time.
What?
They look at you like this is what actually came out of the cop's mouth the last time I was pulled over for speeding. He looks at me, he pulls his glasses down halfway on his nose, and he said, "You work for the state of California. You should know better."
Oh, gotcha.
And the fine was tremendous.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Man, they really slapped it to you then.
He was not pleased.
No?
He's like, of all people that should be upholding the laws of the state of California. I mean, you would have thought I was smuggling meth. I mean, honestly.
Well, the laws in California, let's just be honest, are about the dumbest I've ever seen in my life. A lot of them are just so stupid, it makes you want to puke. They don't believe in the Second Amendment in California. They don't believe in the First Amendment in California. They don't believe in the search and seizure laws in California.
Agreed. Yeah, it's really crazy.
So if they can kill you, they will kill you in California. That's what I was told anyway.
This is true. You know what, Joel, though? I included a story just for you, and I don't know if you want to do it or not.
Why just for me? Why do you say just for me?
No. Oh, I guess that was kind of rude. For you too, Eric. I apologize.
Oh, thank you.
Which one is it? Is it the poop one? The lady stealing the poop?
See, you knew which story it was. You accuse me of being discriminatory, and you know exactly what story I'm talking about.
Okay, go ahead. Regale us with the woman on Tinder date gets stuck in a window trying to retrieve her own feces.
Okay, so a guy in the UK decides to go on a date with a woman that he met on Tinder.
First
so that's
mistake.
where you do your little swipey thing, and you meet the love of your life, right? So it's going well. They have a good date. They go out. They go back to his house, drinking a little wine, having fun. She goes to use the bathroom, and she, oh God, how do you say these sort of things delicately? She had to go, and she used the toilet, and the toilet would not flush because I'm guessing there was some sort of problem with the mechanism.
What? She wants to prove she doesn't poop? Is that what she's trying to do?
No, women are not supposed to poop or fart. This is well known.
Oh.
At least not until like the 10th date. You have to be in a committed relationship to do that.
And they don't perspire either. They
don't perspire either. No,
you
right.
do.
They always smell like roses.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, we smell like roses. We don't do anything bad. So she uses the bathroom. The toilet won't flush, and apparently some sort of wild panic overtook her. So it must have been a wild panic. So she gets some toilet paper and reaches in and grabs her evidence.
Yeah, that's nicely put in there. Her poo.
Yes, and she decides that she's going to throw it out the bathroom window. I mean, God forbid he's on like the second story. I don't know what she was thinking. He's on a second story. So she decides to throw it out the window, but what she doesn't know is that his bathroom window actually doesn't open.
So she
just
threw
the
poo
first window opens. The second one is a
glass?
permanent storm window.
Oh my good Lord. So she hit the glass, the poo.
Right, and then it just sunk to the
bottom. Pool.
Yes, between the panes of glass, right?
This is so wrong. Go ahead, keep going.
Oh, it gets more wrong.
The brown spot on the wall by Who Flung Poo.
So she tries to get it, and she doesn't know what to do. So she goes back out into the living room to fetch her date with, quote, a panicked look in her eye. And she ends up telling him, I went for a poo in your toilet and it would not flush. And she tells him what happened, and he goes into the bathroom, sees the
poo
evidence
everywhere.
It's wrapped in toilet paper in between the two windows, and she feels so bad that she volunteers to try to get it out.
Oh no.
Because, she can't leave it there while the guy's watching, and proceeds to get stuck head first upside down between the two windows herself. And they had to call firemen to get her out.
Oh my Lord. I bet they never dated again.
Actually, he says he has not ruled out a second date.
Because she was committed. Man.
Yeah.
She was committed.
Boy, that's what happens when the poo hits the fan.
Her online. In between
That is one of the most interesting poo extrication tales I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's right up there. Everyone likes a good poo story. And
I once desecrated a family gathering.
What?
Unintentionally.
Wait. So you did it too on the people?
I drove a family reunion out of their home.
Okay, Eric. You just can't throw that headline out there and not regale us with
it was
tale.
like tear gas. All right, I will tell the tale. All right, so apparently I have a relatively, it's got to be mild because it doesn't show up very often, case of lactose intolerance, it would appear. And so where it really manifests itself is if I have an empty stomach and I eat real ice cream. So nothing fake.
The real
deal. Stuff. All that dairy fat, okay?
Sure.
So that is exactly what happened. We were at the beach way up in Menor. We were up on Lake Erie, and everyone was starved, and everyone wanted ice cream. So even though in the back of my mind it said, there's probably good reasons for you not to do that, but I did it anyway, and I was hungry. And so we had to rush all the way down. It's probably, 35 miles maybe. It's not even freeway. It's just kind of highway. And so, you never know when you get stuck in traffic or behind a light or whatever. All right, so I'm all pretty stressed out. So anyway, I eat my ice cream. Everyone in the family eats the ice cream. We had a softball game way down here in our area. So I'm rushing down the road, rushing. We get down here, the guy who was normally the coach, in other words, the guy who kept all the equipment, couldn't play this game because they were having this family gathering. I think maybe it was a christening or something. I mean, the whole family, there's like 20 people there. All right, so there's 20 people in the family in the house. All right, so I go into the house. I am picking up all the softball equipment, the bats and the catcher's material and all that. You know. So
Yes.
I'm there. I'm picking it up. All of a sudden, it hits me. Gosh darn it! I better use that restroom. So I made the request. I knew things were getting a little gurgly, but nonetheless, I mean, there are times when you must do what you must do.
Yes.
So I go into their nice little sweet Lutheran bathroom, and things happen that, are about the worst that they could have been with, just nothing healthy. No, the sounds were appalling. The smells were worse.
Smelled like a slaughterhouse
I'm opening up
floor.
every window. I'm turning on every fan. Same thing.
Burning matches,
Toilet wouldn't flush.
Oh.
Wouldn't flush. No. Now, I know how to fix a toilet, so I open up the top and I just pull the plunger thingy, whatever you call it.
Sure,
lift
the
it
flapper,
up,
yes.
and it
Yep.
kind of flushes itself. But by that time, oh my God, the smell has permeated. And again, this was my body reacting very, very poorly to all of that fatty ice cream percolating around in my gullet with nothing to buffer it. So just use your imagination. Even the color wasn't right. I'm not going to get any more vivid than that. So, but the problem, even though I did get it flushed, was it had time to sit there, right? Too long.
Yeah.
So by the time I'm opening the door, it's like, oh my God, I really did want to climb out that window.
Oh, I don't blame you there.
But I still had to get the equipment. I'd left the equipment. So I opened the door sheepishly, and I'm looking around the corner, and I see everyone in the house has evacuated.
Because you evacuated.
By now, I am just sweating blood. I am so embarrassed. I am not all that easily embarrassed, but I was so mortified what I had done to these poor people's bathroom, and more importantly, to their nice family gathering. I had chased them out of the house.
Wow.
I'm apologizing profusely, and the guys just get out of here.
Just leave. We never want to see you again.
Oh my God! So there's my story.
Wow. Man, I
horrifying.
Yeah,
horrifying.
Yeah, that really would be horrifying. I can't say that I have ever stunk out an entire family of people, but I was dating a girl one time, and she stunk me out, and I'm like, oh my God, you're horrible. I never dated her again after that, and it wasn't because of that. It was just because she was,
sure.
Let's just say she just really didn't understand the word hygiene. It's like,
she was a low G.
Yeah, she was. She smelled. So I picked her up for the date, and I'm assuming that it's not her smelling. It's got to be something else, right? Something somewhere.
You picked her up for the date, and you assumed it wasn't her that
Well,
stunk?
I didn't know because I picked up her house. The windows are down. It was the summer, and sometimes you get weird smells in the summer. And I just thought, well, maybe a dog, I don't know, defecated near the car. And it was coming through the window. So we get to the movie theater, and we get to the movie, and she literally stunk most of the theater out.
Wow.
It was like, whoa, oh, man. Woo, you stink, lady. You stink.
Wowza.
So, and on top of it, she had a personality a lot like a mop. So what I did, and I know everyone's going to hate me for this, is I said, I got to go to the bathroom. Be right back. I never came back. I left her there.
Joel! No!
I couldn't bear the thought.
You pulled a dump and dash?
I did. I couldn't bear the thought. I couldn't bear the thought of having... Well, she only lived 6 blocks from the movie theater. It's not like it was a huge, walk or anything, to get back. So I figured she could walk 6 blocks.
That's...
It was low. It was young at the time. I just really didn't, know what to do. And so I must have been, 19, 20 at this point. And I didn't know what to do with a stinker. So I just left the stinker alone and left.
Oh, my.
So that's my story. But we got to run a break. We come back. We are going to talk all about the Unabomber and the show. We got to talk about the show on the Discovery Channel. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. We'll be right back after a word from these sponsors.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Excuse me. Thousands of cancer patients can't afford a place to stay when the best treatment is far from home. A room shouldn't be the difference between life and death. Let's make sure that everyone who needs a room gets one. Let's make some noise. Let's help the American Cancer Society finish the fight.
Text ROOM to 41518 to donate $10. Only in the forest can you see this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. And you might just see this. Visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole,
better known as the Three Amigos of True Crime. I guess we're known as that because that's how everyone talks about us. So anyhow, We have a really great guest on tap tonight for everybody. And, before Eric does what he does best, and that's, of course, introductions, this is about the Unabomber. In that case, I have been fascinated for years about that case. And so now I get to talk to one of the filmmakers that, of course, has made the feature show on Discovery Channel about the Unabomber. It's like, wow, I'm really excited to talk about this case because there's so many ins and outs. Okay, Eric, now I got that by chest. Who are we talking with tonight?
Well, and just to cap it off, before I get into that, Clarissa has written up a profile in her own inimitable manner on the criminal code. So we got expert after expert. All right, disturbed mathematical prodigy Ted Kaczynski gripped the country in a reign of terror from 1978 to 1996 with deadly letter bombs that could appear anywhere. Dubbed the Unabomber because of his early targets were universities and airlines, one man in a remote Montana cabin with no electricity, no running water, became the most feared domestic terrorist of his time and the deadliest serial bomber in history. Manhunt UNABOMBER tells the dramatic and gripping true story of the FBI's hunt for the Unabomber. The story focuses on FBI agent and criminal profiler Jim Fitzgerald, played by Sam Worthington, very well, by the way, who pioneered the use of forensic linguistics to identify and ultimately capture the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski, played also extraordinarily well by Paul Bettany, as a fresh-faced criminal profiler and the newest member of the Unabomb Task Force. Fitz faced an uphill battle not just against the Unabomber, but against his own allies. And my goodness, I wonder who produced and directed and was the showrunner of it. Ha ha! I will tell you, Emmy Award-winning television producer and director Greg Yaitanes is executive producer, director, and showrunner of Manhunt UNABOMBER. Yaitanes has directed and produced over 200 hours of television, including some of the top series of the past 2 decades. This will be the second time he has been chosen to direct an entire series, making him the quintessential world builder. I like that. Recently, he served as showrunner, executive producer, and directed the entire first season of Cinemax's series Quarry. In addition to his recent projects, Greg's extensive resume includes such series as, and you're naming like my favorite shows, Lost, Damages, Grey's Anatomy, Ray Donovan, Heroes, Banshee, and House MD. It was for his work on House MD that earned him an Emmy Award in 2008 for outstanding directing for a drama series. House became the most popular show worldwide with over 100 million people viewing it each week. Between House and Banshee, Greg has led his team to 29 Emmy nominations and 6 wins, including the first Emmy nomination for content aired exclusively online for the Fox series Drive. Welcome to the program, Greg Yaitanes. Now, please tell me I'm saying it right. I checked in advance, but I'm doing my best. I hope it was good.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. Yaitanes, thank you very much. It's nice to be here with you guys. That was a fantastic intro. I need to bring you everywhere I go.
Right? He could be a human. He could be a human business card, right? Just bring him with you and say,
exactly.
You tell him more.
Exactly.
All you have to do is push my nose, and I start talking.
You know,
Emmy Award-winning television producer and director.
Well, you know, Greg, you have such credits to your name. And number one, I want to say, man, I loved House MD. Big fan. Own every copy of the seasons on DVD. I want to get the fanboy out of the way right away and say, hey, really, really good stuff. You really know what you're doing. But tackling the Unabomber, did you feel that was a little daunting?
You know, my first job directing was for America's Most Wanted, and it was during the time of the Unabomber. In fact, my first day of shooting was the day of the Oklahoma City bombing. And so I spent 2 years working in D.C. with John Walsh and his team, producing and directing reenactments. So, I was working closely with law enforcement, closely with victims, and you felt the responsibility to the bigger picture and the bigger story that you were trying to tell, and felt you were doing good with that. So when I got the call for this, I was actually someone that bought the manifesto, was following the case, largely because I was working, with America's Most Wanted between 95 and 97. So I was very familiar with it. And it was like, I was jumping at the opportunity to tell this story. I had really followed it for, almost 20 years. And, more than, and when I picked up the script, found that more than ever, there was an opportunity to tell a story that was extremely connected to where we are today as a society.
I was going to say the Unabomber is so ingrained in pop culture and just in our minds because really he, at the time, and maybe I think he is, in my mind anyway, the worst example of domestic terror.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, one that captured the public's imagination. I don't know if I'm versed enough to know if he was the worst or not, but
more prolific. I mean, he's serial though. I mean, he wasn't a one and done bomber. What I mean is, people actually feared, getting something in the mail. Is what absolutely. I mean.
For almost 20 years.
Yeah,
I mean, he held. Yeah. I mean, the body count was nothing like Oklahoma City.
No.
All right, so that's a whole different category. But this was someone who diabolically and intelligently, until the end, I guess, held the nation in a grip for almost 20 years. That's remarkable. And that's besides the physical damage, and people forget about how many people were injured, not just the people killed. There were a number of injuries, but he held the nation, in a, if not a panic, then certainly in fear for 18 years.
When he covered the entire United States, too. There were victims from Connecticut all the way to California. Yeah. So you never felt safe.
Yeah.
Every, like our mailbox, we can't mail packages of a certain size. The whole mailboxes, physically were changed because the Unabomber people were afraid of everything that was coming. We were taught to be suspicious of any packages coming. I mean, look at today. I mean, the more packages are moving today than they were 20 years ago, because of all the online shipping and it's I think about it every time I open an Amazon package. This is something that to the idea to be afraid of what was coming into your home and that he could come into anybody's home because there was seemingly no connection until Fitz put together, how these bombings were connected and why they were connected the way they were.
Well, incidentally, we shouldn't only talk about the case, and I would love for maybe some combination of you, Greg, and Clarissa to just give us the facts and give us the background on it, so that people who are younger perhaps, or who are out of the country, or I'm not sure what, who don't know about the case, we'd love to have that. But also, we got to talk about what an amazing series this is. I just watched the 7th episode. I mean, I knew what happened. I'm old enough. I was around, and I followed it too with a lot of interest. And it just has held me in an absolute dramatic grip. And the cast is so amazing. The pacing is amazing. It is a really, really well done series. I wanted to add that.
Thank you. I'm glad that Seven's a lot of fun. That episode, it was. We really, we spent a lot of time researching and talking to as many people. I talked to the real Lowell Bergman, the real Jerry Burns, the real Agent McDaniel, as many of the real players as possible to really understand how that arrest happened and the machinery of it, so that we could drop people right back into that time and that moment and the tension that those agents, must have faced. I mean, you can't underestimate how brave those three were to approach the cabin like that.
Yeah, I can only imagine because, they're walking up there. They didn't know whether there were bombs in there or whether the whole place was a bomb, booby-trapped.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
It would have been nerve-wracking. But, for a lot of listeners, like Eric had said, that are going, well, who the heck is Ted Kaczynski, and why should I care? Clarissa, who was this guy? And is he, vastly mentally ill, or what's the deal with him?
I never got that. I never got that impression that he was. I mean, is he mentally ill in a way? Well, yeah, of course. But is he the disorganized mentally ill that you typically see with psychosis? No, he's not. And that's what in some ways makes him quite interesting. Ted Kaczynski was an incredibly intelligent man. He got his master's and his doctorate in mathematics from the University of Michigan in the 60s. I mean, he got his doctorate at age 25, so it's a fairly young age. He was an assistant professor at Berkeley, but he resigned, kind of disappeared and started having these. I mean, I don't know if he always had these beliefs or not, but had these beliefs about technology in the modern age that started to really bother him. And he he went off the rails and started mailing bombs to people. And then eventually he wrote a manifesto. But again, what's interesting about his manifesto to me as a mental health provider and somebody that studies these guys for a living is that it is not particularly disorganized. And that's why it is so riveting to me.
Well, Greg, what did you think about Ted? When you were really immersing yourself in the case, what was your feelings on the guy?
Well, it was interesting to see that, he had been on a trajectory of this belief. It wasn't always, completely technology focused, but you're dealing with someone that, was a math prodigy who wrote a dissertation that maybe 5 people in the world could understand, who, was accepted at 15 years old to Harvard on a full scholarship, went there when he was 16. And, someone that saw that mathematics, which was like a skill you needed, if you see those movies, Hidden Figures, you see them writing on the blackboards and all these equations. I mean, that was something that got, replaced. People were being replaced. That was like a livelihood and a skill and the thing he was good at. And then a computer comes along and can do what it takes him in a day in 5 minutes. And then, that is going to have an emotional reaction. And that's what Ted writes about in the manifesto. He couldn't necessarily read people and understand people, but he could understand the effect that technology had on people, and also over socialization was something he wrote a lot about, people being too packed together, too many people in one place in cities and so forth, and too much entertainment, something that we're dealing with, now more than ever. You can't even keep up with what's coming at you. It was, as I mentioned at the beginning, his manifesto was prophetic, 20 years ago. I mean, if you really take a look at it now, you really feel like you're reading about something today. And that was all, and the groundwork of that was being laid, through his whole life. And of course, as we explored in episode 6, he was recruited by MK Ultra while at Harvard, from ages 16 to 18. So it's, I feel for someone that was betrayed and broken and essentially weaponized. And, I think, the government also has a role, and it's also a story of unintended consequence. You don't think it's just, the Quarry was exploring the same thing, the idea of sending young men out to war and coming back and not being prepared for what it would do to their mental state before PTSD, really had a name put to it. So it's the same thing here. And he was, I agree with the message. I don't agree with how the message was delivered.
Yeah, I hear you. And then, and then he went off the rails, of course, and started sending bombs. And then he would taunt, reading and then watching the show, of course, there are certain things he'd do. He'd include wood for whatever reason. Well, we found out later. He'd include wood in the bombs, things like that. And in fact, his first victim's last name was Wood, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'd have to go, but I cross over between. We had to, streamline the victims that we showed and talked about. So, but yes, there was somebody. He had these return addresses. I don't recall exactly which was the name. I think Percy Wood, I want to say.
Yeah, he was. There were 3 victims. Right, yeah, there were 3 victims with Wood in their name. So he seemed pretty obsessed with that idea, of working that in. But it's interesting from, this is the part that's most difficult for me, is that in some ways Ted Kaczynski breaks the molds, for sure. He's incredibly intelligent. I mean, creepy intelligent, and he has a lot of ideas. I agree with his ideas. Again, not the method with which he was trying to get those ideas across, but in some ways he is also very stereotypical serial killer. So it's strange that he kind of rings all of those bells for me, because the wanting to put the manifesto out, which is a very Anders Breivik thing to do. And Anders Breivik was the killer in Norway, the mass killer of children. The Gary Ridgway wanted that same recognition. So I am a bit wary, I think, of trying to build him up too much, because he doesn't deviate from other killers in those ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. He's the same in a lot of ways. What you're saying is these other people, he happened to be a genius outside of bombing.
Exactly. He had other attributes that you don't typically see.
Very well said, because I was just looking at the information on the show, and of course looking at the FBI, the actual document of the arrest. And when they showed up, they really didn't get him right away on bombing, by the way. They held him mainly on suspicion of having bomb-making materials, which allowed them to hold him long enough to get more stuff, be able to really investigate the cabin, by the way.
Right.
Greg, what do you think, what was the actual trigger that turned him from a hermit and from a, kind of a curmudgeon and someone who had these developing ideas about society and technology? What turned him into a killer?
We had access to, his journals and the case file and an unpublished autobiography that he wrote. And it was interesting. He wrote in two different journals. He wrote a longhand journal of his day-to-day life in the wilderness and what it was like as a naturalist. Mm-hmm. It's a very beautiful life to read and to look at. And then he wrote as the Unabomber in a numerical code. Like, he could write in a numerical language that was unbreakable. In fact, the FBI admitted they had no hope of breaking it until they physically found the handwritten key to breaking, the code, and that's where they deciphered all of his bombings and experiments and so forth. And in that, in one of his journals, I think in his autobiography, he talked specifically. In fact, we dropped this out of the show because we didn't feel it was appropriate given the climate, and it didn't really answer the question. But if you ask Ted decided when he wanted to go in for a transgender operation and was denied, that was when he came out of the office and decided that he was going to kill people like that doctor that just turned him down, and kill people that wronged him or represented, people that wronged him. So, it was obviously not that. It was everything that built up to that moment. But,
yeah.
I don't think there's any one thing you can, that's why we actually didn't address it, because I don't think you can point to any one thing. And the last thing we wanted was somebody, putting the conversation backwards on transgenders, and
sure.
And we didn't feel we'd be responsible, because there was not one thing that you could look at. It was a series of everything,
yeah.
and that something broke in him. And I've said, all along the process, there's a really fine line between inventing the iPhone and becoming the Unabomber. I mean, a razor thin line. And, that genius doesn't take much to turn it and realize that, these people that you're infinitely smarter than, you need to do something about, and you need to right the wrongs that you're seeing.
Yeah.
And, people have channeled that in very positive ways. But what's interesting is that, on the message side, Ted battling, while I'm using the analogy of the iPhone, I mean, you're looking at somebody who's fighting technology, trying to connect us, and that we are becoming less present to each other. Meanwhile, we have the iPhone made by also, a super genius, and is doing nothing but pulling us apart and disconnecting us. I mean, I had to ban cell phones from set twice now, both on Quarry and on Unabomber, because energetically everybody isn't there anymore working on the show you're trying to work on. It's terrible what you're seeing. So I could see that if you were obsessing on those things and it was making you crazy to see that, and you were also living a life of nature and kind of off the grid, that would drive you really, kind of drive you mad.
Yeah, because he believed in, like you said, technology was evil, and we shouldn't fall prey to technology. And, of course, he had a manifesto claiming all this that he gave to his, if I'm not mistaken, his brother that held on to the manifesto for quite some time. And
he had a first draft.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as simple as like technology's evil. It was the, the irony, of course, is that the government really for the first time, really he accelerated the very thing he was fighting. I mean, the government up until then didn't have all the databases interconnected, but this was something that's now pretty standard, but it was created to try to catch Ted because they couldn't triangulate the different databases. Back then, as when I was talking to Lowell Bergman, they had to get every social security number. You had to get an individual warrant for. You just couldn't like punch people in and try to like kind of weed out between the IRS and the Social Security and the Postal Service and try to access those. So
a lot of
it's fascinating. He's a prisoner of his own creation.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of the technologies, like you said earlier in the show, that we have today were directly a result of the Unabomber.
You know what's? I feel like I have to sort of interject with sort of an idea, if you don't mind. I feel like everybody, including Kaczynski himself, was sort of blaming technology, and a lot of us are blaming technology. But to me, that's a chicken or the egg type of argument. Is it the technology's fault, or is it the way people use it and intend to use it? And Ted Kaczynski himself drove people into states of fear and into their homes and not talking to each other and not trusting each other based on the actions of sending people bombs. So it's. To me, it is the actions of somebody that was incredibly smart on one hand, but also incredibly disconnected from the society that he kind of railed for. It's a very strange juxtaposition in a single person,
which makes him a great character because
totally
what I've always we have so often actors I've worked on shows and actors are looking for like, yeah, but why would he do this if he did that? I'm like, where do you find any consistency? Who is consistent? Like the whole, everybody is psychologically messy. Everybody, are hypocrites and contradicts, and everybody lies, and everybody does these things. I mean, I came off of all this on House.
I was going to say that sounds very House-ish.
I know, and House is the best character ever.
But it's true. It's true if you really think about it. I mean, that's what makes a great character is that he's, here's a guy that is, like living out in the woods, seemingly feeling that he is trying to lead a revolution of humanity in his own way. And I don't think he was deluded. I think he was, he believed what he believed passionately. I don't even think he, if you talk to Andrew, Andrew felt like, Ted was just tired of making bombs. Like he just, like this just went on and on. At the same time, he had his own addiction, the way that we are, we're not very responsible with technology. We just fall into it and we've somehow made it okay. But I'm sure like cell phone etiquette will go the way of cigarettes, and people will get more and more impatient when you're pulling out your phone and doing things, while you're sitting there across the table from somebody or taking calls while you're sitting there talking to somebody. Yeah. I mean, all this stuff is, I agree that people need to like personally advocate for themselves and be responsible to themselves and not sit here and, and do that. And yet we still do it, and it's just, I don't think we've gotten our handle on it. I think it has to reach to kind of a critical mass before the backlash will start. But it's going to start, is my guess. Because I'm definitely one of these people that have embraced technology early, and yet find myself pushing it away more and more as I've seen what it's doing.
But Greg, on the other hand, technology is thrust upon us. You can't do anything without visiting www. There's nothing you could do today without the internet.
Talk about. You're a slave to it. Who's the master? Who's the slave? Your phone beeps, you pull it out, and you look. So who owns who in that situation? Yeah. So it's that aspect that we wanted to kind of start the conversation on. We don't want to be preachy about it. We just want to start the conversation.
The tail wags the dog. And my favorite line, sorry to interrupt, just wanted to get in before we hit the bottom of the hour. My favorite line about technology, and I throw this out there, so forgive me if you've heard it before, but it begins with a blessing but ends with a curse, making life easier but making life worse.
Well said.
Very
well
good.
said. Well, we'll run to break. We come back. We're going to dive deeper deeper into the Unabomber, deeper into the show. I mean, that's what we're here for. Talk about the new Discovery Channel show, Manhunt, the Unabomber. And, of course, we're talking with Greg. I'm not going to slaughter it here because I wrote it down, Yaitanes. And when we come back, we are going to dive deeper into psychology of Unabomber with our own Dr. Clarissa Cole as well. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. We'll be right back after a word from these sponsors.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
She's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
What do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torrent Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. And got the remote.
Great. Now grab that Torrent Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And tonight we were talking about Greg Yaitanes, and he is the maker, and he's the director, and the granddaddy of the greatest show that I've seen in a long time about true crime. I got to say, I've been watching it right along with Eric has been watching it, and that's Manhunt, the Unabomber, on the Discovery Channel, and it is very compelling stuff, but it's caused a lot of people that I have contact with, of course. I've watched the show to dig deeper to who Ted Kaczynski was. And he seems to be this, as we're talking about in the first half hour, a torture genius on one hand and a run-of-the-mill psychopath in a lot of ways on the other hand. So he's kind of, like Dr. Cole said, chicken and the egg kind of thing going on. He's a little bit of both. We don't know which is which and what begins and what ends. But what we do know is he caused a lot of carnage. Now, when you were filming this, Greg, when you're making this film, was there any part that, because you lived through it, like everybody else knows about the Unabomber, our age. Okay, a lot of young people came to me, getting ready for the show. They said, "Well, the Unabomber, who is he? What is he all about?" They don't understand the fear that he imposed. What kind of mass hysteria do you recall, Sir Greg, when that actually was going down?
I just remember it being in the news. I used to watch more news back then. I remember Dan Rather, Peter Jennings, Brian Williams, Ted Koppel. I just remember it being in the foreground, and it suddenly accelerated for a period of time. And that frenzy, the philosophy behind the show was not to make a docudrama, was to really make, we held like The Insider and Silence of the Lambs and All the President's Men. Like, these were our touchstones for this. We wanted something propulsive and exciting, and you're dealing with really like one of the first like supervillains, like a genius that is like terrorizing the country for 20 years. So I just remember, that particular era, especially for me, it was everywhere. It was just, I remember going to the post office, to mail things. I just remember. So it was that feeling I was trying to capture. And that's like my way into projects, especially like something like Quarry was capturing what Memphis felt like in 72, 3 years after Martin Luther King was assassinated. I wanted to try to capture that kind of constant barrage, it was like something was happening, then something was happening with the Unabomber, and there was something seemingly going on every week for a while until he was captured. And it was exciting because you felt like you were part of it then. And that was something I was really trying to capture. And I think Andrew, scripted beautifully.
It's funny. I was getting ready for the show, and I asked a younger guy in his 20s I happen to know. I says, "Hey, do you know who the Unabomber is?" "Yeah, he's the guy with the hoodie and the glasses, right?" I mean, that's how they remember him.
Yeah, most people. Well, we wanted to play on that. We wanted to play on the fact that people usually knew three things, which was the hoodie, the sketch.
Yeah.
It was, they found him in a cabin and his brother turned him in, and if you, most people know those three things. In fact, I was actually surprised that most people don't know those three things, and that we were really introducing this story for the very first time to a lot of our audience, which was terrific. But if you know those three things, what the show will do will subvert all that and really tell you the stories behind the stories and dive deep. None of which we've had to really make up. The substance of the conversations are all things pulled from journals and articles and case files and books. It's something that is all there and is, getting the accuracy. It just fell into place so well as a story. We had to, in fact, it's more omission because we just didn't have the real estate to pack everything in there.
Yeah.
And if you look at Gil Murray, who's the first victim in episode 1, Gil Murray's actual last words to the secretary before he opened that package was jokingly, "I hope this isn't from the Unabomber." If you include that, in the show, it just looks like we're just being ham-fisted. So there's things there's details like that are just too crazy to even put on television.
Yeah, I remember it growing up, the Unabomber, and I remember the hysteria. In fact, a lot of the young people in my life say, "Well, why don't you guys just email each other?"
Well, actually, you know what? It's actually funny you say that, because that's why, computers were. It was still, Fitz will tell you, it was still very much a paper culture, and computers were just starting to kind of get in, even though it is, known as the first case the internet solved. It is. We kept computers in the background because our concern is that people just see a computer and they think why aren't they Googling it? Why aren't they searching it?
Sure.
We didn't even want to have to go there. So I saw a lot of the research photos and could see that computers were mostly still off to the side at the FBI, and tried to embrace that as a way just to psychologically tell the audience that they can't Google the answer of where Ted is.
Exactly. Really quick, I know you only got about five or eight more minutes before you have a prior engagement. But one thing we did not touch on, I'd like to, and if you wouldn't mind, is you were on the forefront of computers yourself. You are, the Twitter. I mean, you helped develop Twitter. So when you were doing the Unabomber, filming this, did it kind of hit home when you start thinking about technology and how immersed you were doing Twitter? And then, of course, now as talking to you, there's a bit of a pullback. Do you believe that maybe moving forward, there will be a pullback from technology? Do you think there will be a renaissance, a more simpler time as we move forward?
My work with Twitter was mostly connecting Twitter and television and looking for ways to expand the reach of a show and to reach your audience. So, what started out as well-intentioned, does lead to a lot of noise and clutter and harassing and bombardment and trolling. There's a lot of, sadly, kind of overpoweringly negative things that can occupy that. But I still think as a medium, I really lean on it to stay in touch with the fans of a show and the audience and really keep the pulse of what's going on and what's going on out there. And it's been good work. I've always adopted technology early to find ways to make my own job efficient. Now those things have become very standard within the industry, and it's great. But at the same time, suddenly, now that we can do, like, for example, casting. Casting used to be an in-person event. An actor would come in, director would sit there, give direction, give notes, go through it. Now suddenly, somehow there's no time for it now that it's possible to do most of that electronically. But at the same time, that technology's opened up more opportunity for people. So that's, something that's exciting to see. So it balances out. I think it's just, you got to, great power comes great responsibility. So
Sure.
you got to use it wisely and be able to, kind of regulate and manage yourself. I just, I've caught myself really going down the rabbit hole sometimes, and more and more, I'm just more aware, and especially in the making of this, I was ultra aware of just, that, and kind of what the research is coming back is that you've got people, young people especially, really they're having addiction symptoms. They're addicted to the dopamine hit that they get when they get likes, and this is leading to like depression, and it's depressive details, and that's terrible to see, because it's just nothing. It just should be like a like a kitchen knife in your, it's like it's a tool to be used when you need to use it. It shouldn't be something that's controlling and obsessing you over.
You're absolutely correct.
They have camps for that now. I mean, in some Asian countries, they have boot camps now to get these kids over internet addiction. It's crazy.
Real quick before you go, I was just going to say that ironically the flip side of it within the story is that Fitz, of course, is using not necessarily technology only, but a new way of approaching criminal investigation by analyzing the text, by doing the linguistics and whatnot. And he was rejected. He had to really fight, and finally get through. They finally just needed him, and he had the answers. But that's a really interesting part of the story. And it was, how did you choose that angle, the Fitz angle, to kind of be the core of your story?
I'll take a cue from Andrew on this. And a lot of people have tried to crack the Unabomber story, and they specifically target because it's very enticing to tell the story of the brothers. But the story of the brothers is half a story, and they didn't see each other for 25 years, and the only reason Linda ever saw the manifesto was because Fitz made the moves necessary for that to get out into the public. If you could believe that it took over 3 months to decide whether or not to publish the manifesto. I mean, now, something happens and it's on Twitter in a matter of seconds. Nobody thinks, what will be the impact of something like this. And the only way you can tell the Unabomber story is to tell the story of Jim Fitzgerald. And that's why we chose that lens, was because at the center of everything is Fitz. It's like Linda read the manifesto on the 2-month-old FBI.gov because Fitz really pitched that this would be an opportunity a way to capture the Unabomber. Not that we're negotiating with terrorists, but this is how we're going to capture him. And so that, so the brother story comes back to there. The investigation was going nowhere, and it's not a successful investigation unless you drop Fitz's work into the middle of it and, tell the story of how this, the smoking proverb came to be, and how that almost didn't happen, and how many times, even when they had Ted Kaczynski's name, they still didn't believe it was Ted Kaczynski. I mean, even in the warrant, and we didn't touch on this, and we did it. We did at one point, but it started to add a whole complicated layer. Even in the actual search warrant, there's 2 paragraphs. In fact, Fitz never knew this until I brought it up to him after reading the search warrant. There's 2 paragraphs that basically say that are ass covering paragraphs that basically say that we don't necessarily believe that Ted Kaczynski is the Unabomber, but we've got all this comparative analysis. So even down to the very end, and that's what makes the judge's role so heroic, is that even in the face of submitting this as a way, there were still people that actually were typing up the warrant saying, like, we just don't believe this is necessarily the guy.
Yeah.
And we have other suspects out there. And that's to constantly be fighting the system, because, what everything, Ted says about, they will try to make you sound crazy. They're going to try to discredit you. Like, I see that. I've seen, I've been sucked into various systems at various times in my life, and I see how if you are not with them, they will actively try to tear you down and discredit you. And Fitz really fought a lot, and was like, I felt very honored to tell his story and to be able to give him, the due that he's long overdue to receive.
Yeah, exactly. I know we talked a lot about the Unabomber in this, but Fitz, man, Jim Fitzgerald, really, what a character.
He's a hero.
What a hero.
That's a hero.
Yeah, exactly.
His job, his family, risked everything to catch this guy, to stop, so that, like, my son and daughter don't have to worry about that right now.
Yeah.
And that means something. And that's that's the lens to tell it. That's the lens. Anybody else telling the story would have a hard time telling it accurately without Jim at the center of it.
Yeah. Well, he risked everything. He really did. And he was the hero. I mean, really, he is the hero of this story. And you're right. He changed life for all of us, so we do not have to fear anymore. Opening that package, or we, that he actually captured was instrumental. He was instrumental in capturing the Unabomber. And so, really, quite honestly, I think your direction of putting him in the middle, man, what powerful TV. Of course, that's Manhunt Unabomber. That can be caught right there on the Discovery Channel. And it is really, if you have not seen it yet, tune in. It will captivate you right from the first episode. And right now, I do believe they're on the 7th episode. And it is a very, very intense.
The finale will be on. The finale's on this coming Tuesday.
This Tuesday,
the episodes are on demand. They're on iTunes, Amazon, and they'll eventually, I'm sure, be on streaming service shortly after we air.
Very, very,
it's
very
on
cool.
Discovery.com right now. You can see, I think,
right
all the episodes.
Yeah, it's great to watch it that way. I mean, obviously, I love the less commercial interruption, the better, because I just think it breaks the spell of keeping people in the 90s. But that's just the filmmaker in me, not the businessman in me. So it's there. But I really do hope people deep dive into it, and it is a very, the episodes just fly, and it was exciting to energize, what could have been the kind of story that just sort of sat there, and miniaturizing the audience into the bombs, into the manifesto, into the words, and to excite them with new concepts and make everybody feel smarter. Like, that's rewarding. And having Sam and Paul at your side, and having collaborators like John Goldwyn, who's my producer, and Andrew Sadrowski, who wrote the scripts. I mean, that's, it was really really one of the more fully rewarding experiences in my career was this one.
Very, very awesome stuff. And thank you so much for making a show like this. And because it's not only is a great program, but it's also a really important history lesson as well, American history, because there was a time that we all feared the mail. It was really weird that time in our history.
It was truly, and it's great to be able to talk to you guys tonight and to be able to have a conversation about that, and to also kind of counterpoint it too, because you can debate a lot on Ted's state of mind, and what we're doing right now is exactly what Andrew and I would do. Andrew's very sympathetic to Ted. I'm very much like, dude, he's a serial killer, and if he hurt anybody I know, like this is the end of the conversation. Like, there's no conversation, because he's a serial killer, and exactly. I'm not down with we were mindful of the fact that real people got hurt, real people died. This is something, we didn't make light of it. We didn't do Fitz, famously shut down a Halloween party at the FBI where everybody was going to come in hoodies and sunglasses because it was in that form, and and we took that cue to make sure that we weren't nobody was doing crew photos, that way. It's it's not cute. It's not funny. It's not something that you can make light of. And we, always wanted to remember that real people are at the center of this, and we want to do something that portrays them right. And in fact, when you see some of the victim statements in the finale, those are taken directly from the transcripts from court. So it'll be the real words of the real people.
Very authentic.
Wow.
Very authentic filmmaking as well. And Greg, again, it has been an honor and a privilege to speak with you. And really, we'll keep watching. And I want everyone that has not tuned in to definitely tune in. Make it a point. Manhunt Unabomber right there on Discovery Channel. It's also on Discovery Go as well, I do believe, and on demand. So catch it everywhere you can. Greg Yaitanes, everybody. Greg, thanks a ton for coming on. I know you got prior engagements, so we'll let you out of here, man. But really, really enjoyed speaking with you. Take care, sir.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
You're awesome. Thank you. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Right, take care.
You have a great night. Bye. Wow, very, very cool guy. Greg, man, he really, really great filmmaker, and he captured the essence of the time as well. That was what was really cool. Watching it, too. How about you guys? What do you guys think?
I love it. I think it was really, really well done. And again, amazing cast. I mean, Jane Lynch, Sam Worthington, Paul Bettany, people who don't, other than Jane Lynch, people who have not done a lot of TV. It's really, we kind of ran out of time. I was going to ask him, how did he bring in that cast? And a lot of people whose names you don't necessarily know, but who look very familiar. So, I mean, it was really well done. It did not take long before I was pulled into that world.
Yeah.
And it felt real, and kind of nothing happened that pulled me out of it. But before we run out of time, Clarissa, I would love to hear your analysis, anything you haven't already gotten into, of Ted Kaczynski and of the case, and just any other thoughts you may have in our remaining 10 minutes.
I'm really glad that the series is being done as it is being done. I think with a lot of respect toward, the victims, because so many people were victimized by Ted Kaczynski, and not just the people that were affected by the actual bombs, but like he was saying, all of America. Everybody was afraid of, and still, I mean, to this day, people, do you know who that package is from? Is that package marked? Were you expecting a package? And life was never like that before Ted Kaczynski. And
packages were fun.
They were. Yes. They were like Christmas. It was the best thing. But now, in the scanning of everything, and I guess that's kind of why I was trying to point it out sort of at the beginning of the episode too. I wasn't sure where it was going to go, because whenever media is done on one of these people, it can go both ways sometimes. Where I feel like maybe they are glamorized a little bit. I don't feel that way in this case, and I'm very relieved about that. Because in as much as he was, quote unquote, special because of his genius intelligence, because of he made bombs out of very primitive things as well. Credit for that, I suppose. But he was extremely typical when it comes to his narcissism. He is really just like a carbon copy of those other serial killers I was talking about. He doesn't differ at all. And so, like, whenever somebody tries to pick somebody out and say they were special, they were different, I guarantee you Ted Kaczynski was not different. The narcissism, the streak of narcissism that ran through him is what got him caught. Yeah, and that's very predictable.
Wasn't he spotted at one of the bomb sites, and that was kind of another key to why things unraveled?
Well, he was spotted, and they did have sort of, kind of an idea of what he might look like, but it was the manifesto that captured him.
Yeah.
Absolutely, hands down, it was his own writing. It was his own narcissism, because he demanded that this be published in its entirety. And had it not been published in its entirety with all of his weird grammatical sort of quirks, it might not have been matched to him. I mean, if he had just let the newspapers edit it, they might never have matched it to this person, but he didn't, because he was so narcissistic that he demanded.
It was his own smugness that got him caught.
It was his own narcissism that got him caught, just like with Gary Ridgway. It was his own bragging that got him caught. It is the defining trait of killers like this. And you know what? God help me, I hope it always is, because it's how we catch them.
Yeah, because if you get a killer that isn't smug at all and good at covering their tracks, I mean, God help us all.
Right, and Kaczynski was excellent at covering his tracks. I mean, he even left false clues inside of his bombs to sort of mislead people. I mean, his intelligence is absolutely staggering, but it is that streak of pride. I have to take credit for what I'm doing. I have to explain to everybody why I'm doing what I'm doing. See, that's the thing. The inherent joy, I guess, if that's what you could call it, of doing what he was doing wasn't enough for him. He needed everybody to know, and that was his undoing.
Now, did you ever get the opportunity to maybe, if you wanted to, really badly request to talk to him as a doctor? Would they allow that? I mean, would you ever take that opportunity to sit there and speak with him directly?
You know what? Realistically, do I have any right to talk to him since I work for the state and he's in a federal penitentiary, that sort of a thing? No. Do I know people that work in the system and could I pull strings? Sure. Would I want to, though? Here's the reason why I wouldn't. One, I wouldn't want him to feel like he is any bigger than he is.
Gotcha.
Because in my mind, he is just another killer. We happen to know about him, but that is the only thing that differentiates this man. And second, I've talked to so many people that are just like him that I don't feel like I need to. He's nothing special in my eyes, never will be.
So now, I know there are killers you cannot talk about, but if there was one that you can talk about, who would be on your bucket list to actually sit down? Who was truly different that really made you go,
and it's not because this person is different, and we've talked about him before. I would have to go back in time to do it. It really would be somebody like H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because, if I was to list somebody kind of like H.H. Holmes, possibly maybe someone like Ted Bundy. And the reason being is that most killers in that genre are not very charismatic, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? They just don't have that. They don't have that thing that you're looking for, I guess, when people glamorize serial killers. Very few of them have that social.
And women
panache.
loved Ted Bundy. Women loved
H.H. Holmes
him.
too.
Yes, they loved Ted, even after he got caught. I guess I was hearing from someone that happened to work in. Now they're retired, so they could talk about it. But they said that he got more love letters than any other individual he'd ever dealt with. I mean, just, oh, Ted, you're so great. We could be together. That kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And
so
I can't talk about who they are, but I know some people, too.
It's just creepy. Why would anyone that, well, I'm going to assume is a rational thinking individual want to hook up with such a monster? It makes no sense to me.
It's, I think there's several different motivations. There's one is that they clearly want to be connected to somebody that is famous. Even if it's infamous, it's still famous, right?
True,
So they want to be connected to someone like that. They want to get on the inside, know about them. And the other thing that is so bizarre to me is that a lot of people, including men, including other just random people, seem to believe that underneath all of this sludge, there is just a hurt little boy that wants to be saved. Let me tell you, there is not.
Yeah, it's a monster that if you give him a chance, he'll kill you too.
Absolutely, and will use you for everything you're worth, and as soon as they're done, they will throw you away. I promise it.
Yeah,
that's how this works, But people don't want to believe that because they want to believe everybody's human like they are.
Well, they might be human, but they obviously they're flesh and bone. But that's where it begins and ends.
Right, they're psychopaths, so they don't have that one piece that makes them human, which is empathy.
But do you think that there are predators in this world, and these are the predators of mankind?
I don't think it. I know it. I know they're predators. I know that they are not, like I said, they are not the same as most other humans. Are they human? Yes, of course they are. But do they have that defining trait of empathy? No, they don't. And they never will. And there's nothing you can say that will make that happen for them. So don't believe that underneath it is just some hurting individual because there is not.
He just didn't get loved enough when he was little. He'll be just fine. I can love him.
And they'll spin those stories all day long if they think you want to hear them.
Yeah. Well, they'll say whatever it takes. That's the hallmark of a psychopath, though. I mean, they will kind of say whatever you think, but what gets them by. Now, Eric, sir, I know we got a big show tomorrow night. Why don't you tell the listening audience who they can hear tomorrow night?
Yes. Well, you guys all know about the huge movement in adult coloring books. They are all the rage. Well, naturally, this being, or tomorrow being the America's Most Haunted segment of After Hours AM, we have a horror coloring book.
What?
And yes, horror coloring book. Very excited about it. This is the second in a series. by Alan Robert, who is also a musician, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But this one's called The Beauty of Horror 2, Guliana's Creepatorium.
Wow, so that's Alan Robert tomorrow night. You're going to want to tune in to hear about this horror-based coloring books, which is definitely going to, it's piquing my interest. I can't wait to talk with him because, wow, I mean, really? Adult coloring books. So we will be talking with him tomorrow night. Not going to want to miss that, of course. And, at the end of another show, guys, it creeps up on us so quickly. And I also want to thank Clarissa, of course, letting everyone know, just a program note, Clarissa, due to your day job, you're scaling back a little bit. You're not going to be here every week. But when you are here, it's going to be blockbuster shows, as always. But I just want to let everyone know that you are scaling back, and you are going to be on twice a month rather than the full 4 weeks a month. And so we appreciate everything you have done. And not like you're leaving or anything, but we want to let you know that we have really, really appreciated what you have done, what you bring to the table for After Hours AM, the Criminal Code, and we will miss you, but somehow, some way, me and Eric will try to competently move forward the best we can, because without our secret weapon, it makes life a little bit harder. But I just want to throw that in there. So this is our last week that you'll be here full-time, and so we just want to thank you for everything that you do, Clarissa.
Thank you, guys. It has been amazing.
And, of course, in the meantime, thecriminalcode.com is always up and rolling. So you got that. So if you need your Clarissa fix, thecriminalcode.com. But it's time to sign off here. So take care of each other, love each other, and, hey, don't be opening any strange packages from people you may not know.
Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. And please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.